Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the HR and Equalities meeting. And item number 1, apologies for absence.
Apologies of absence that we've had so far is Councillor Ellsbury. I believe that's the only apologies we've received so far.
Right, thank you. Right, we'll move on to the next item, which you said you were going to do a roll call.
Yes, if I can do a roll call, please, Councillor Drake. So, Councillor Ali.
In present.
Thank you. Councillor Colbrand.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Drake.
Present.
Thank you. Just checking, Councillor Ellsbury hasn't joined. No. Councillor Evans.
I'm present, and it's my birthday, so I'm expecting presents.
Happy birthday. Councillor Hodgins? No. Okay. Councillor Holmes?
Yes, I'm in attendance.
Lovely. Councillor Hussey?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvie?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Lister?
Present, and happy birthday, Steve.
Councillor Molson?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Norton?
Present, and happy birthday, Councillor Evans.
Councillor Roberts? I can't see Councillor Roberts at present. Councillor Shaw?
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Thomas?
Present.
Thank you. And I can also see that Councillor Tudor and Tudor Davies and Councillor Steve Bradwick have joined as well. That completes the roll call, Chair.
Right, thank you. Do any members have any declarations of interest they wish to declare?
Please, Pamela. Within my other role of Track to Charity, I work with fundraising with Blue Watch Fire Brigade in Newin.
All right, thank you for that. Any others? No? Right, so we'll move on to item number 3, which is Chairman's announcements. I know this is belated, but I'm sure all members of this committee do wish to extend our condolences to the family of and colleagues of firefighter Griffiths on his tragic passing in that unfortunate accident. I'm sure Tudor will want to say something at full fire authority meeting.
Can I just say, Chair, that I did attend the funeral down in Thornhill, and very, very emotional, as you appreciate, and a fantastic turnout by all our frontline staff and our non-frontline staff. So, yes, very sad. I have written to the family, and I did have a chat with the Green Watch from Pontypridd, just to have a chat with them, and I've showed them I will be visiting with the Vice Chair at some time. All right?
Thank you for that, Tudor. Anyway, moving on to item number 4, to receive the minutes of the HR and Equalities meeting held on the 22nd of February. Do you wish me to go through page by page?
No, I think it's fine.
Right, could somebody move these as a true record?
I'll move, Pam. Thank you. Seconded.
Right, that's fine. Thank you very much. Item number 5, which is the Training and Development Department Investors and People. I believe Kevin Yates will present this.
Yeah, good morning, Councillors. So it's Brian Thompson here, the head of our training department. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair and Councillors. It's my great pleasure to introduce Station Manager Kevin Yates, who did previously work for me in training, but is now Station Commander in Dufferin. So Kevin led our Investors and People re-accreditation and our inaugural Investors and People Wellbeing Award. So Kevin's going to talk to you through about the journey that we are on, and it's predominantly a good news story. Top 60% of the organisations worldwide, the first in Wales to have Wellbeing Silver Award. But I'm not going to steal any more of Kevin's thunder. I shall let Kevin go through his presentation for you now.
Morning, Chair, morning members. I'm just going to share the presentation with you on screen. Let me know if anyone
Mm.
hasn't got that. Please.
Could I bring you back? I'm in a meeting.
Right, okay.
Could I bring you back? I'm in a meeting.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Ta.
Has everyone got that? Can see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So thanks for that, Brian. That's not sharing for some reason, sorry.
You have to go into the reading view you see the orange bar at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm going to have to end show, sorry. Okay, I just think about that because it's not going to share full screen, is it?
If you go into reading, it should. Yeah, so if you stop sharing the screen briefly, go back into your presentation. A few technical issues, members. We'll be with you in a moment.
Sorry.
It's fine.
I love the hybrid system.
If you press reading view, which is the one that looks like a book, I think.
That one.
No, keep going along. It's the third one along, that one.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. So if you now share that.
Technology's wonderful, isn't it?
When it works.
When it works properly, yeah, you're right.
Brilliant. There you go. Hopefully you can all see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, morning. I'm just going to give you a journey to date to where we've got to before we went out to reaccreditation back in the latter part of 2020. So initially we set out on the IIP journey in October 2017 and we were awarded the silver in the people assessment. Subsequently from then we've had annual meetings with the facilitator just to make sure and keep us on track that we're actioning some of the recommendations and to overview of where we were progressing, areas we still needed to focus on, and our overall aims and objectives to make sure that we improve from the silver award. Part of the that 3-year period was to go out and do similar organisations to make sure that we could benchmark ourselves from them, but also learn in maybe what challenges they faced and how they overcame that. So we kind of linked in with Devon Powers Police, Welsh Water, Companies House, and tapped in for information that was available. Some of the good points that worked for them, and in terms of maybe some of the communication strategies that they use to link with all of this staff. Those links are still ongoing, and we'll certainly keep them going forward for the next 3-year period. Part of the recommendations was to form a staff engagement network and a forum where the voice will contribute, suggest ideas, and add value from the investors report. And we embedded the Shout Forum, which is now recognised throughout the service. Again, we've overcome the challenges of COVID, and all of the current Shout forums are all virtual. An action plan was produced against all of the recommendations in the report, and again, we worked towards them, hence where we've seen the improvements in the recent survey. And then December 2020, we undertook the people accreditation, and the service decided to do the wellbeing service survey as well. Just a brief overview of what Investors People is. Obviously, it's a recognised distinction across many organisations worldwide. It's basically a standard in determining how well we manage, improve and support our staff. And it's used as a benchmark as well to use against different organisations of similar size, structure and worth in the communities on benchmarking us against how we deliver, how our staff see us, and how our leadership team take it forward. So in 2020, we went for the online assessment again. Out of the staff, we had a response rate of 39%, which met the criteria of what was needed to be able to progress forward with the interview stage of the EIP. Slightly down on the 2017 response rate, but But again, we think that's probably down to a lot of factors, mainly COVID, remote working, and the amount of information and reliance on PCs. Still, in terms of response rate for IP, it's still a credible response rate as well. The survey, people survey, okay, it covers three main areas: improving, leading, and supporting. Each of those areas is broken down into 9 indicators, and there's 27 themes behind each of those. And that will make up the basis of where we score in terms of developed, silver, gold, and platinum. From the previous 2017 report, we've seen 15 themes improve. Each of the 9 indicators improved from 2017. And following the online assessment, we interviewed 175 people across all areas and departments. All of those meetings were undertaken via Starleaf and completed by the 5th February. And as a result of the accumulation of the online assessment and the interviews, we were subsequently awarded gold, a massive improvement from silver. And as Brian already alluded to, only 16% of the patients worldwide achieved gold. So some really positive outcomes to take forward, but also some areas that we still know we can develop. So in terms of areas that came out well in the survey, collaborative working between operational and corporate staff, a very sense of high value of teamwork and a sense of family within the organisation, a cohesive ELT with a degree of passion to ensure the organisation is succeeding at all levels, effective use of data to monitor performance and support decision making, and the organisation's focus on the well-being has been a significant benefit of all of its staff. And that will come out later as well in the well-being survey. Areas we still need to focus on: fairness and clarity around the promotional process, with feedback being key to improvement. Recognition has improved. However, there is areas within the service that needs to be strengthened. Consistency of managers has seen improvement, but there is still work to do on this area. And change could have been more front-ended engagement, and more importantly, the rationale for change to happen. And the final comment is improvements as highlighted from staff. So there was many recommendations and areas that staff thought that could be improved or certainly consulted on, and that will form a different action plan that we can discuss and take forward with all of the staff. Onto the wellbeing survey, released at the same time as the people survey. Again, not the best of results that we would have wanted, with only a 22% response rate. We've kind of got some idea of maybe why the response rate was low at the time, and that was probably because we released 2 surveys at one time. That wasn't our intentions. Originally, we'd spaced 6 months between the assessments, but due to COVID and the impending reaccreditation for the IAP being extended by 3 months, we had no option to put both surveys out in December. But that's an area that we can focus on, work through over the 3 years. So the wellbeing survey, slightly different from the people survey. It's 3 areas: physical well-being, psychological well-being, social well-being. These are broken down into 3 indicators, with only 4 themes in each of these indicators. Following the results, obviously we had 7 in silver, 1 in gold, and 4 areas that require some improvement. Said about earlier, the 22% response rate, something we will work on and look to improve. And a massive positive, as Brian has already alluded to, it's the first organisation in Wales to achieve silver at the wellbeing. So something we really need to take on board and what we're supporting. Again, the areas to be proud of: teamwork and relationships, an important and one of the best aspects of working with the service. Something was highlighted in the people survey, so something we've got right. and something we certainly need to grasp and develop further. The assessor made comment to a number of people spoke about the support from the line manager and the service, and I think this was linking to the climate, the pandemic, and the support that was available. Physical and well-being is strongly supported with a variety of facilities, initiatives, programs to support all staff. Again, came out very positive throughout the survey, both online and through the physical interviews. Psychological well-being highlighted as a credit to the service, with direct mention of incident tagging. Bit of background on that: the incident tagging is that every incident that the groups may respond to will
see where all the apps are. You should.
Sorry, apologies for that.
Yeah. That's just the big button at the bottom, isn't it? You can hit the big button.
I don't know where the sound is coming from, but could I remind members to turn their sound off when they're not speaking?
I think it's come from Jared, the IT trainer.
I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, if you could, Jared, can you mute your mic, please?
Sorry about that. Have we lost contact?
Roommate, you online? I'll give him a call now. Find out. It looks like this screen's frozen. Are you okay?
Yeah, we've unmuted now.
We might be back on now.
Okay, I think you are. I can hear you from both ends.
Okay.
So, okay.
Thanks.
Apologies, Chair. ICT, sorry. Okay, I'll just cover the one I spoke about was the well-being highlighted as a credit to the service with direct mention of incident tagging. Just to give you an overview of that, is every incident that the crews are involved in, maybe a critical nature of a casualty, that incident will be tagged against them as a well-being incident, and then they'll get the follow-up support through occupational health should they require that. Something that was definitely the assessor thought was mentioning in as a very positive going forward. Other areas: passionate people leading and driving the wellbeing throughout the service, and also something to note: the continued fundraising for the firefighters' charities and other causes is a credit to the service. Areas that we still need to focus and work on. And some of these we were expecting, especially as we were new to the IIP wellbeing. Some of these I know are actually being established as we speak. So positive to see we'd already had these in line with what the assessors' recommendations were. So the use of data to measure the impact on wellbeing goals to support future improvements. I'll cover that on the journey ahead as well. To continue in raising awareness and understanding of the well-being across the service, ensure accountability lies with line managers' responsibilities. Establishing well-being champions across the service, something I know that is currently going on now. Developing a working strategy for well-being, again, I know that is being developed as we speak. And then the final one is to review how pressure and workloads are assessed and supported. The way forward. So following each assessment, the people survey will go back in line with the original accreditation, which was October 2017, the new accreditation 2020, and subsequently we'll have 12 and 24-month reviews before we go back out to re-accreditation in 2023. The well-being, we were accredited in February, so our review process will take place in the Februaries. And then, should we choose to, in February 2024, we'll go back out for reaccreditation on the wellbeing. One of the areas that was covered and mentioned about using data was to support the decision making. And with BMIS, we've embedded the wellbeing and the people survey, which will mean that we can report back quarterly or 6 monthly to make sure we're checking on the progress for it as well. The trend analysis, thankfully, from the 2017 and the 2020 People's Award, we had data available from both assessments. This has now been put into a spreadsheet where we can collate, focus, target areas of improvement and engagement across all of the groupings that we'd identified going forward with the People Survey. Something we'll be able to develop when we go through for the wellbeing, because then we'll have two assessments with the data. As always, a consideration and direction by the ELT regarding in which way we wish to push and pursue with the recommendations from both reports. And I spoke about the accreditation for the people and wellbeing in 3 years' time as well. That's a quick overview of both the people and the wellbeing reports. Open to any questions from the members.
Councillor Shaw, you've got your hand up.
I have indeed. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you. It's an excellent report, but more importantly, it's an excellent result. I think the whole service needs to be congratulated on a stunning outcome, frankly. The report itself contains a lot of good information, and there are a few room for improvements which are noted. But importantly, can you tell me how this work, these two reports, feeds into the other works, particularly in HR and our committee, if you like? So when I read the pack, every other report after this, I was almost questioning myself, how does sickness management, how does mental health, how are all these things informed by the good work done in these reports? Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Shaw. It's Alison Reid here. So what we've tried to do is link the activity in the IIP reports into our people plan. So, and with our HR managers, we are now looking at how do we draw a lot of the recommendations into our sort of BAU work. And I think it's probably fair to say quite a lot of the information that's in the IIP reports, whether by luck or design, we've got much of it covered in our people plan. So yeah, it was quite pleasing to read the reports and actually, from my perspective, think, do you know what? You know, this is the activity that we have flagged as part of our normal activity within the HR function. So what you will see is when we bring our updates through BMIS, as part of our BMIS reporting, you'll see how we've linked everything through. And I'm pretty sure the BMIS updates will probably come to HR and Equalities in the future, if not Fire Authority for the full meeting. So you'll get to see all of that and how it all dovetails together, fingers crossed, quite neatly. Hopefully that's answered the question.
It does, thanks, Alison. I think it's important that, you know, it's an outstanding result, isn't it, for the service, and it's something that we want to embed into the way we do things. So it's nice to know it is thought of and linked into other measures. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Lister, did you put your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, folks. It was just a query really on the number of people who actually got involved with completing the survey, and I know you said it was down on the previous year because of a number of factors, but I just wondered if we knew, and apologies if I missed it, but where the split was between operational staff and then supportive staff, and if there was more work being done to make sure that the operational staff were actually making sure that their views were heard as part of the survey.
Yeah, so in terms of all the data, it's at the back of each report, which broke it down into all the groupings that were identified. That's something that we know we have to promote internally. The difficulty is being able to check, because obviously the surveys are completely anonymous. So it's about making sure we enforce the message, the importance of individuals completing it. But I think importantly, to see maybe the response growth increase is by the actions and recommendations that are approved by investors and people builds trust in people being able to complete the online survey. The difficulty being was when we released it, we were just approaching the second or third lockdown, I believe, and it was just making sure that message, and then the people survey, the wellbeing survey, it just didn't become word blindness in people's inboxes, but there was 2 surveys they thought they completed. So we know there's a bit of work for us to do and about promotion, but the detail and the response rate is in the back of each report from each grouping.
Well, thank you very much.
Councillor Roberts and Councillor Norton have both indicated.
Yes, I had them written down.
Thank you, Chair. The question I wanted was also about the survey, and it's just been answered. Thank you.
Councillor Norton?
Yeah, so it kind of goes part on Councillor Shaw's point. Obviously, it's a really good report, and a lot of improvements have been made from a quite a high standard in the beginning. But one of the concerns I have, and it feeds back into previous reports we've had on other areas, is around staff engagement, particularly on staff who have been members of staff for some time. The report mentions the staff who've been with the authority for at least 5 years are less engaged, and particularly the staff who are most engaged are the new recruits. So my concerns are what we're doing to engage, particularly with longer serving staff, so they still feel obviously they are listened to and engaged with service.
Yeah, that's a valid point. That was quite evident in the reports that came back. I think one key focus on is the Shout Forum, the Staff Engagement Network. I think that's the voice that we've used to try and engage people. It's mentioned on every PO's visit. It's mentioned internally in headquarters from corporate to uniform staff. The response is growing, and especially during the periods when we were on lockdown, the Shout Forums were really well attended, and a lot of engagement from both the uniform and corporate. So we are slowly bridging that, but there is the trend data that shows that 5 years is where we need to engage, and that's part of the action plan that we'll be taking forward and working with the assessor over the next 3 years. Hopefully that answers that question.
Anybody else want to raise any questions? No? Oh, Tudor?
Yeah, just to clarify, you're talking about 39% response. 39% of what? Is it the whole workforce, or is it a percentage of the workforce?
39% was the overall percentage of the workforce, which was 638 out of 1,653. And in terms of where we speak to IAP about the response rate, believe it or not, that is a really high response rate in terms of what they work on. They normally set themselves anything around 70% is a good return. So yes, we would like to see it in the 60s, the 70s, and in an ideal world, 100%. In terms of what IIP look for, that response rate is credible in what data they use it for.
I appreciate it. I'm taking the aspect of it that quite a number of the members, a large number in fact, have not responded. Either maybe few apathy about it, but to me there's a positive answer to that as well. That people, the number that haven't, may be more impossible, that they're very content with what we are doing.
Yeah, and that's backed up by the interviews with the assessor. So to make sure that we're capturing a broad range of people's views. Again, we've got no idea whether those individuals replied online for the surveys, but by having those open meetings and a mixture of corporate and uniformed, we had a good response. 175. It's a lot more than what we interviewed on the previous assessment. There was lots of positive people that came out of those meetings.
But the point I'm getting to is usually the ones who got how can I say, a problem with it, with our service, right? They're the ones mainly will come forward to make their views. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, a high percentage of that, I've got no problems because they feel they don't want to respond. That's all I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a positive as far as I'm concerned. Now, if we'd had a 90% turnout and we had a lot of problems out of it, that'd be very concerning. You know what I mean? silence is golden.
Yeah. Roommate, agree with you.
All right. Anyway, can I just say you've done a fantastic job. It's a fantastic report. I can say that.
Oh,
the only one I was looking at is on the leadership, leading, inspiring people. On trust of the leaders of my organization, management motives. I mean, there seem to be a very widespread of opinion there. Can you just clarify that, because that concerns me that there's not a very high percentage, being positive about it. Page 34.
Have everybody finished asking their questions? No further questions? No, I would like to say congratulations to everybody, because what a wonderful achievement. And I love reading some of the comments. I know there wasn't many, but the one on page 37 of the report, what he says, they say, I have never woken up and thought I'd want to go to work today. Well, that's really positive, isn't it? It shows what a good service they are providing for the residents in this area. Well, thank you very much for everybody. And thank you, Kevin, for this very good report. I believe the recommendation is only for noting. So do anybody want to move that?
I'll move, Pam.
I second it, Chair.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, everybody. And thank you, everybody, for their questions. All right, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the Strategic Equality Plan 2020-2025 Annual Review. I believe that's Andrew Jones is going to take us through this.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. You'll note on the document that I actually indicated report presented by Carrie Wood. As you'll be aware, and Carrie has presented to the group previously, he had a phone call early last week to come in for some long-awaited surgery, which he underwent on Friday. So he's been waiting some time for that. So I said I'd pick up this in his absence, just by means of an explanation. But yeah, just a brief overview really for your information. As you'll be aware, we have a duty to develop a strategic equality plan. The last one exhausted in March 20. So from the 1st of April 20 for 5 years up until March 25, we drew up a new strategic equality plan. And this report really is the first year review of that plan. You may recall that previously we've identified the 5 key areas that we wanted to focus on. And I think those are highlighted at the top of page 98. I'll just go through them briefly. First was to ensure underrepresented groups, marginalised communities, etc. are involved at the outset of design, delivery of our services, become an employer that all communities can see themselves being part of. So there's a link into the socio-economic duty there. Become a place of work where all employees feel valued. There's a link into to the earlier presentation around IIP. Ensure we carry out our legal duties under the Equality Act and to improve our infrastructure to better support a 21st century inclusive employer. What Carrie has done, and it suits this particular agenda, is that we've uploaded the necessary outcome activities onto the services business management information system. So for each of those five outcomes, we've actually got a starburst starting at page 100, and there's a starburst indicating our performance in that particular area against that outcome, and some of the activities that we have commenced in the first year of the plan, 2021. What I think is worth pointing out that certainly some of the external facing activities that we intended to undertake since the 1st of April of last year have been significantly affected by the experiences we've all gone through due to COVID. So some of those activities have had to be curtailed or delayed till either this current year or certainly next year, when hopefully we're in a more stable state. But essentially, as you can see there are five starbursts there indicating primarily where we're at under each particular outcome. And as I indicated, some of the carriers have spoken to the relevant heads of service across the organisation, indicating where exactly we are against these particular activities. And on page 99 there's a summary, if you like, of where we are against each activity on a red, amber, green status. So that's pretty much as much as I wanted to cover off on that particular report. It is there for your information. Be more than happy to dig deeper in once you've had an opportunity, perhaps to read some of the activities within each sector. And it will be our intention to come to you now with an annual report going forward, as I say, following each year, so that you can view our performance in this area against our relatively new strategic quality plan.
Councillor Evans, I believe you wish to raise a question.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just on page 94, where I'm looking at 4.1 and 4.2, during the COVID, about home safety visits, school sessions, community engagements.
Yeah.
And carrying out that. Well, I've been working with the service to promote things through the food banks and other ways. So some things have been going on. It doesn't state in there, but we have been trying to approach, the communities via, those avenues. I mean, if we carry on doing that, I think we are doing well. I mean, we are working on trying to increase the home safety visits, and I'm looking at with other staff to try and find an avenue to approach people for, contact the service for them visits. So there are things going on, even though the COVID is still prevalent at the moment. So just to make members aware that, there are still things going on. It hasn't stopped. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Evans, and I appreciate that. And perhaps we've undersold ourselves a little bit, maybe, but certainly this report is up until the 31st of March of this year, and since then, some of those home safety visits, etc., have now recommenced. So there will hopefully be a more positive slant to next year's report that you receive, certainly in regards to the current financial year.
Yeah. I was told the other day about, I think, St Cyrus School in Penarth, the fire engine came along there, and the children were absolutely thrilled to bits to see it. So it sort of brightened their day a bit.
That's good.
Yeah. Oh, I know it's been very difficult in the last year or so trying to deliver this, but well done, everybody. So the recommendation is that we just note the report and the Appendix 1. Do I have a mover for that and a seconder?
Move.
Second.
Chair.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. Right, we move on to number 7, which is the update on personal review process. I believe Alison and Andrew are going to present this. Are they going to take us through? Both of you going to take us through this report?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'll start and then I'll hand over to Andrew. So this report is for information, and those of you who read our 2017 Investors in People Survey outcomes will have seen the recommendation in there that we should have in place a consistent approach to performance appraisal. So our personal review process is our new performance appraisal process. What we've been doing in terms of developing the approach here is we developed what we called a straw man. So we developed a little bit of a draft personal review approach, and we tested that with staff. So we went out to staff and shared sort of an early draft of our personal review approach with them, and it was developed in line with feedback that we got from our people. So there are several components to the version that we've now rolled out. In para 2.1, you will see on page 106, just at the top there, the new personal review approach has these elements to it. So there's a section on employee wellbeing, and that explores upfront how the employee is feeling and elicits a conversation with the line manager about their own wellbeing. The second section is around strengths. So this area invites the individual to talk about their own strengths, what they perceive to be as their strengths. And that elicits a conversation about where there are potential gaps and how do they build those strengths. And then there's the section around performance. So in this section, we measure the what and the how. So what that looks like is for those of you who have heard of the 9-box grid, it essentially scales an outcome based on the what and the how. So the what is the performance aspect, how the individual is doing in terms of delivery against task objectives, and the how is what are their behaviours? Are their behaviours exemplary or not? And there's a conversation between the individual and the line manager around where they see themselves in terms of that grid. Then the next section is all around career aspirations. So where does the individual see themselves in the next 18 months to 5 years? And then the final section is about setting development objectives for the year ahead. As I said, we piloted this with groups of staff, so we took it out as a test, and the feedback that we received was really positive, so we decided to roll this out as our new performance appraisal process. We've done it also through a digital means, so we implemented an online system, which is an extension of our core HR system. So people log in, they commence their personal review electronically, and they record the outcomes of the conversations in core. We are now at the stage we launched in April, so we're now just looking at how many people have registered, so who started their personal review through the online system. And we're also going to be doing over the next few weeks some metrics around, what's the quality of the discussion, how does that look, and encouraging wider uptake through our heads of service and our senior management team discussions. The personal review itself is supported with some toolkits which have been developed by our L&D team, and they really are top notch, I'd suggest. But I'll just pause there for anything further from Andrew. As I say, we've launched and we're now at the stage of looking at who's kicked their PR off and what that looks like.
Yeah, I'd agree with everything that Alison has stated there. Certainly as a head of service, I've carried out personal reviews with 3 of my managers to date. They've all been very positive experiences, which is great to hear. Whenever you're introducing something as new as this, we're all a little wary as to see how it will be received. But I've certainly experienced it in a very positive light, which is great to know. And just dovetailing with the previous report, IIP and Councillor Shaw indicating how the findings of IIP is going to form part of our future work. The managing performance area of IIP, obviously we have a discussion around performance here. Al alluded to the 9-box grid, talking to individuals about their career aspirations. Probably that isn't something that's been widespread throughout the organisations, and is quite illuminating to see what people's aspirations and intentions are going forward in terms of career development. So this is certainly a very positive step forward in the organisation's development in terms of personal reviews.
And just to add, to what Andrew said, you just sparked something in my head, and around the Investors in People report. And when we talked to the assessor about the personal review approach and how we were developing it, she described it, and it may have been in the report, or it may have been just something that she said to us verbally, as really excellent, and that how we'd sort of engaged our people in developing the approach was really, really innovative as well. So just thought I'd add that.
I believe Councillor Jarvie wished to ask a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I understand that job evaluation is being carried out within the service at the moment. I may or may not be wrong in that, but this survey that's being carried out among the staff, is that being conducted in tandem with job evaluation, or is that a separate matter which will be brought to us in a separate report in due course?
So the personal review approach is separate. The job evaluation update and reports, including outcomes, will be reported to the July Fire Authority meeting.
Thank you. That answers my question. I just wanted to know if it was in tandem or separate, and it's obviously separate, and you're going to bring it to the next meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvie. Councillor Evans, did you wish to raise something?
Yeah, it's only an observation, really, and I think the report's excellent. But on the top of page 106, where you've got the 5 bullet points, and I think Alison had touched on this, would it be appropriate to put a 6th one for the feedback of the process?
Yeah, Councillor Evans, that's a good point. And actually, what I didn't say is we will be undertaking a formal review of the process at the end of year 1. So I think what we could absolutely do is include that as one of our must delivers for a year April, so for next April then, because we would want to refine it based on customer feedback. So feedback from our people. Good point. Thank you.
Any further questions from any members? No? Right, well, the recommendation is that we actually note the report. Does everybody agree with that?
Move we note.
Anybody second? Brilliant.
Second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right, we move on to the next item, which is item number 8, which is the Occupational Health Unit Activity Report, 1st of April 2020 to 1st of March 2021. I believe Ruth Hazel is taking this.
Yes, I am. Good morning, all. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing it from Occupational Health today, so we're testing out our new screen. Yeah, it's been a very interesting year for everybody, I suppose, with regards to COVID-19. And I think what it's allowed us to do as a unit in general is review our processes. There's things we've had to do because of COVID, which actually have worked out well and to the advantage of us and our employees. So I'll go through that as I go through the report, but we obviously had to adapt to change quite quickly. We had to continue our work. Things couldn't obviously stop. And we get to a stage now where we're looking at resuming our normal services, but like I said, just slightly differently and to the advantage of the service really that we're offering. So going through the first part of the report, we're looking at appointments. And the only real thing that reduced with regards to our appointments was routine medicals. And with the advice of the Health and Safety Executive, we weren't able to do routine medical screening. This involves lung function testing, which would have been high risk of transmission of COVID-19. And our hearing testing is done in a booth. Again, we can't clean the booth down, so that would have been considered high risk. So we had to think quickly how we were going to change our way of doing routine medicals on our operational staff. We did this, I liaised with other fire services to ensure we were all in line with each other. And we did this by doing a paper review. So anybody who's due a routine medical, we sent out a routine medical screening form to them. The forms came back. I think we sent out 480 forms. So even though on the appointment stats it looks like that we didn't do routine medicals, we actually did do them in the form of the questionnaire. These were sent out to firefighters. They were returned and were reviewed by either myself or the other nurse. And then anybody who had highlighted any health issues on there, we would follow this up with a phone call or ultimately bring them in for review if it was needed. So it was just a different way of doing things. We wouldn't really be able to continue this way long term in the future because we do need to carry out lung functions and urine tests. With the restrictions lifted, we are hoping that we get a go ahead to do our normal routine medical screening in the coming months. So we'll have a bit of a catch up there. General appointments, though, we actually did more this year than last year. And the reason for this really is that we were able to do telephone consultations. And a telephone consultation sometimes takes less time than a full appointment at occupational health. What we found with these telephone consultations is that because operational staff and non-operational staff didn't really have to take too much time out of the day because they were only taking a call instead of driving to occupational health and driving back, that we were able to do more telephone consultations. And actually some people preferred this method. As we said, we could get a lot done in a phone call. We were able to review them and able to bring them in face to face then if we felt necessary. Video appointments initially were done by telephone consultation as well. Obviously they are governed by Spire Hospital, who advised them to only do face to face really on those who needed to come back to work or if they were seen as complex cases. However, now we are back up and running to full face to face clinics with our physiotherapists at the moment. They might do telephone consultations for follow-ups, which is quite beneficial, just a quick phone call to somebody just to check they're doing okay. And pre-employment, the numbers were reduced there because obviously it was the same thing really as routine medicals. We weren't able to do spirometry or audiometry, but we quickly adapted this process that, after the first few months of not being able to do anything with COVID, we started bringing people in, firefighter recruits in for medicals. We left out the lung function testing, but we replaced this with a respiratory questionnaire, which is seen as just as effective, really. We were able to bring our pre-employments in, which were then going on to training courses, so our numbers are back up to normal now. We've got a pending full-time course coming, so they're due in next week, and we're continuing the medicals with them. Fitness testing, I think there was only a drop of 20, so actually over the last year we were able to continue fitness testing. Our health and fitness advisors they're going out to station now with risk assessments, keeping their distance, cleaning down treadmills, use of masks and things like that are in place. So they're able to go ahead as normal, which is great, really. We haven't lost any numbers there. What you might notice with regards to unable to attend and the did not attend, the unable to attend looks quite high. And I think last year it was 320. It was brought up in the meeting last year, what were we going to do to reduce these? And we were looking at possibly getting a patient management system in the future. But the unable to attend for this reporting, it looks high, but actually it's quite low. The unable to attend were cancelled by admin when COVID-19 kicked in, really. So you're probably talking the first 2 or 3 months of appointments were reduced face-to-face appointments because of COVID. So the unable to attend is probably at least 100 or so less than what it is on there. The did not attend looks high, but actually what some of these are no answer on the telephone. But the way our system is at the moment that we did since our move is that if I had booked a telephone consultation and somebody hadn't answered, the admin would automatically turn that to no answer. But what could happen is that person would ring back later in the day, but it's still on the stat as a no answer. So we've reviewed that completely now. We're changing it so that we don't put it as a no answer, which looks like a DNA, until we've given it about a week to see if somebody has contacted us back, because they might just be busy, they might have been on a call and then they're able to take our call. So the did not attend and the unable to attend have actually been significantly reduced in the past year, especially with the telephone consultations, because more people are likely to pick up the phone sometimes than they are to take the time out of the day to come into our health. Referrals were quite high, so we've had the same amount of people coming through from sickness absence and management referrals. I think out of the number, I think we had 310 last year, 354 referrals this year, but 43 of them were COVID related. We're exactly on par really where we should have been for the last year anyway. Surgical procedures looks quite high in costing, but actually if you think with COVID-19, the NHS went from a 1 year delay to a 2 year delay at the moment with surgery. So obviously we needed to get people back to work, especially the firefighters. So you might see a slight increase in there where the procedures that were required at fire might have been done through the NHS, but were required, otherwise these people wouldn't be back for another year or even longer. Dr. Tracy Vick, our psychotherapist, who's based in the Heath, obviously the last reporting year she had taken some bereavement leave. Our figures have now gone back up to 39. We have had some unfortunate incidents in the fire services with fatalities of firefighters where the numbers would have increased. Also, the good thing with our referrals to Dr. Tracy Vick is that a lot more firefighters and other staff, non-operational staff, are talking to each other a lot more about their experiences through Orc Health. So a lot more saying that they've been referred to the psychotherapist or counselling, and then more coming through that way. So an increase in numbers doesn't necessarily mean there's a bigger problem. It just means more people are coming forward, which can only be a good thing. With regards to our counselling numbers, I think it's not noted completely on the report. Our counselling, with the asterisks on the thing, it just means that they were done by telephone consultation. So our counselling over the past year was done over the phone, which still worked as effectively as face-to-face. And actually, I think we had a reduction in the number of people unable to attend or did not attend, because it was easier and more comfortable sometimes for them to take a telephone call than coming into the actual unit. Our new counselling service is taken over now. The new contract started in the end of March. We now have 2 counsellors who do a morning each. We've got more option of 2 people instead of 1. They offer through their service a text message reminder. So obviously they can send a text to the people the day before their appointment to remind them. But what they're doing is offering them either face-to-face, which is Zoom now, or telephone consultation, whatever the individual is more comfortable with. And that seems to be working really well at the moment, because there's a lot more people basically having their sessions and feeling less anxious sometimes about coming into the building. So if they do telephone consultation or video call, our new counsellors are able to accommodate that as well. That's the majority of the report. Is there any questions at all? Obviously, with the wellbeing events, COVID put restrictions on there because we couldn't have groups of people coming together for our wellbeing events that we normally do in headquarters or out on stations. We did use the internet to advertise nutrition talks. There was information on cholesterol and blood pressure monitoring and stuff put on the intranet. So we have got a wellbeing group. We have got now a calendar, a list of awareness events throughout the year. So now we should be able to, whether it's virtually or in person, be able to plan our wellbeing events for the following year.
Well, thank you for that. I was going to ask a question about the non-attendance, but you've covered that. Thank you. I believe Councillor Roberts wants to ask a question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It says in the report that there's been a decrease in the budget for fitness equipment. Do you think that would have an impact on some of the people being able to utilise some of the facilities?
I don't have any input really into the budgets of the fitness equipment, but I can only assume perhaps maybe Andrew can answer. It's been reduced because it wasn't used the previous year, maybe. But I know the fitness advisors order according to whatever's required across the service, and they've had a lot of new equipment over the last year or two. They've had new watt bikes and things like that. So I think the gyms are adequately set up for them anyway.
Yeah, I reiterate what Ruth has just said. We have invested significantly within the gymnasium throughout the service in recent years. It supported us, if you like, through COVID, in that individuals were able to maintain their fitness even when community gyms were closed. And yeah, it was primarily due to the fact we didn't spend the budget fully last year. Because of the investment we put in previous years.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Evans, you wanted a word?
Yeah, please. Well, you said you were contacting them by text and other means. Were you doing it so you get any confirmation back to stop the non-attending?
With the counselling, I think that's through their own computerised system. I'm not sure how that works. I just sent a text. But with regards to us as staff, each staff member in occupational health now has their own work mobile. So we do tend to get confirmations back from that to say how attended. So I find it's difficult because people do forget appointments in general anyway. But what I've done now is if I make an appointment for a physiotherapy appointment for them, I send them a text message and say, if in doubt and you forget when it is, you know it's on your phone. But we are going to look at a patient management system in the future, which will automatically send these messages out instead of us having to input them ourselves then. And
the other thing is, can we look at the abbreviation? Because first of all, when I looked at it, I thought it was a medical procedure for DNA. So.
Didn't it say did not attend next to it, did it?
Yeah, DNA is when they've taken a swab to check the cell.
Yeah, we'll correct that for next time, yeah, that's true.
Oh, thank you very much for the report. The content is excellent. And you've been working under very difficult circumstances, haven't you? Yeah. I was very interested in the virtual yoga Starleaf classes. How's that operated?
I think previously we had somebody coming in doing yoga, so through the health and fitness advisors, I think they had them doing it. We've got screens now put in, obviously the gyms and stuff, so I think it's been going through that, but it's probably working just as well, to be honest. And our fitness advisors have now got a screen in their gym, so say they need to give advice on somebody stretching or prevention of muscular injuries, they're now able to do it from the gym here without actually losing travel time going to the stations themselves. So it's really working well, all the new like smart equipment.
I'm not coming forward to sign up, I must admit.
Oh, Chair, I was going to say, Chair, I'd love to do the virtual yoga. I would be really interested. I'd love to do it. So
with a sausage roll in it.
Yes, yeah, I would love to do the virtual yoga. I would genuinely love to do it. But there we are. Thank you so much. Fantastic report, really impressive.
Yeah. Okay. Has anybody else want to raise any issues?
Yeah, not an issue really. Just like to say, nice to see Ruth after all the time that I am not able to see her. Hopefully we'll arrange to come down, Ruth, to see you at the Pontyclean, which I haven't visited yet.
You haven't been yet? No, I know.
I give all my regards to the staff, especially Emma. Still.
Yeah.
Anyway, nice to see you. And
yeah, see you soon too, then.
You're travelling further now. I want you to go to work when you are.
Yeah, I know. We've got to travel further, but it's a nicer accommodation.
I know. And Emma's on the doorstep, so she's happy, all right?
Yeah, exactly. She's happy, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. We go a long way back, but don't take that personal. It's professionally, all right?
Anybody want to raise anything? Oh, Councillor Muslim?
Thank you for that report. I'm totally in agreement with personal gym equipment. As we were aware, our gyms were closed through all lockdown periods. I myself had to create a room and actually purchased a lot of equipment for my staff and my volunteers. That was put on a rota system so they could go in, their exercise for an hour, cleanse the equipment. That's really, really good for their mental health well-being. So well done on that. Pamela, can I please give my apologies now? I have a domestic violence meeting and cataract is one, so I have to go.
Yes.
So I apologise.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Right then, the recommendation is that we actually note the report. So all members in agreement?
Yeah, propose that. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much, everybody. We move on to item number 9, which is the firefighters' pension schemes, Welsh Government Circulars 21 to 22.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is for information only and shares with committee members the action that has been taken against each of the circulars received. Just to take you through the appendix on page 125, you will see the title of the circular and the action that's been taken against each one in the summary box. Just to run you through them quickly, so that these are the ones that we've received since the early January 21, so early January this year, and starting at the top one, so 06. This circular requested information to be supplied to Welsh Government on our pension funding arrangements, and is in relation to the top-up grant that is awarded to us via Welsh Government. 05, Circular 05 is confirmation that employer contributions remain unchanged for 21-22. Circular 04 was in relation to some changes to the compensation scheme for the firefighter pension scheme, and this was around modernisation of some aspects of the compensation scheme. Circular 03 was around changes to actuarial factors, and these were provided by the government's actuarial department, again circulated to RCT pensions and internally for action. Circular 02 is a very topical update which relates to age discrimination in pensions, and this is not just about fire pensions but also about public service pensions. And then finally 01 was a circular in relation to pensions indexation and revalorisation effective April 21. So all circulars have been shared with the relevant stakeholders and are provided to you today for information as part of our governance and assurance mechanism.
Councillor Drake, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. My phone went off, so I had to switch it on quickly. Right. Does any councillors want to raise any issues? No, I can't see any hands go up. No. Well, the report is only for information only, and the recommendations are: 1, members accept the Welsh Government Firefighters Pension Scheme circulars and emails that have been received in the 21-22 year to date, and 2, that members note the actions that have been implemented for each in the circular. Is everybody agreed?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Chair.
Right, now we move on to item number 10, which is a report on annual sickness absence, 1st of April 2020 to 31st of March 2021. I believe Alison and Andrew are going to take this again.
Oh yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll pick this up to start with. Yes, this is a sickness report for the COVID year, if you like, for the April 20 through to March 21. And you know, I waited for it with bated breath really when the HR manager responsible for attendance, Karen Davis, came and spoke to me and gave me the overall review of the year. Very pleasing to note that sickness absence figures across the service have reduced by 9.5% on the previous year, and the actual number of shifts and days lost due to sickness reduced by 12.1% on the previous year as well, which was very pleasing to note. It's been a pretty unique year, as we'll all agree, I'm sure. And the report actually identifies the impact of COVID on our sickness absences. If I could just draw your attention to the table on page 130, that first table, 2.1 if you like, that's probably the most significant for me. If you go back to the year 1819, we had just over 20,000 days lost to sickness, days or working shifts. And we've brought that down to 16,800 in the space of 24 months, which I was very, very pleased to note. It is reflective of sickness across the UK and employment circles, in that organisations are reporting a reduction in sickness absence throughout COVID. I think that is primarily down to the fact that the individuals who may not feel well enough to attend their workplace, who could yet still conduct their duties from the comfort of their own premises. So that's pretty much across the employment sector. throughout the country. There were 2,307 shifts days lost due to sickness from the previous year. So that's a reduction, as I said, of 12.1%, which is quite a significant figure. I recall writing in the services Shout magazine 12 months ago, just to advise the service of the good news that we had experienced a reduction in 1920 as compared to 1819. I genuinely didn't think we would experience such a significant drop again this year, so that is very pleasing to note. We're actually comparing it on a quarter-by-quarter basis. If you look at table 2 at the bottom of page 130, so we do keep a close eye on attendance and obviously the impact that can have on our operational capabilities in particular. So we do keep an eye on that, and you can see that there are certain spikes, if you like, that coincide with some of the periods throughout COVID where period has been at its greatest. So yeah, that's just an example of the sort of quarterly analysis we undertake year on year. And then the table then on page 131 pretty much indicates how each sector of the organisation has been affected by COVID, and you'll see the bright yellow line significantly higher than the rest, and that's fire control down in the Gen, where we share the control room with South Wales police staff. Obviously, due to the relatively low numbers of individuals who work in fire control, it does only take a small number of individuals to book off sick to have a significant percentage impact. So we are mindful, and we have put additional resources down in control throughout this to support them. And it is worthy of pointing out, I think, that some of the reduction in sickness, I make mention of 2.2.4 at the bottom of 131. There has been a significant reduction in those minor illnesses such as coughs, colds, etc. Due largely to the fact that there is less transmission. We're not getting together in large venues, large crowds, and there is less transmission of such sort of minor illnesses, if you like. So there has been a significant drop in that type of absence. If we go over to page 132, then the injuries on duty, just a highlight there. They are pretty consistent. 9 injuries in the last financial year in comparison to 8 previous, and the same number of injuries in respect of 1920 in relation to all on-call staff. So that's fairly consistent, and for an organisation of our size and the type of activities we undertake, I think those are figures that we should be pleased with.
Mm. Oh, thank you very much for that. It's good to see the absentee level going down. Let's hope it remains that way. Councillor Roberts, did you want to raise something?
Yes, it's interesting to note that the coughs and colds and flus were much less. Do we, as a matter of course, offer the flu injection to everybody in the service? And if not, if it's making this much difference, perhaps we should.
Yeah, yes. We considered doing this back in June of last year in anticipation of the flu season, which I'm told commences in September. We were a bit late to the party in that all of the supplies, pretty much across the country, had been bagged by some of the bigger organisations, your Boots, etc. So we were unable to purchase them. But one thing we did do, we introduced a scheme whereby we would reimburse individuals the cost of receiving a flu jab, which I think is in the £10 to £15 region. We had a low take-up on that, it must be said, but I think the members of staff were grateful for the offer being made. But I've spoken to Dr. Hugh Rees, our senior occupational health physician. It's his view that by by rolling out flu jabs across the organisation, the logistical aspect of that, as well as the cost, wouldn't be borne out by the number of days sickness you would save. That's certainly a view that we've had from, as I say, our medical professional. But we are of a view that we should reimburse individuals just to encourage those that are thinking about having it to actually have those jabs.
Thank you for that. Did any other member want to ask any questions? No? Right. The recommendation is that the members of the HR and Equalities Committee note the contents of the judicial report.
Move we note.
Does somebody want to move that?
Yeah, move we note.
And second? That's fine. Thank you very much. Right, we'll move on to the next item now, which is item number 11, the annual report on grievance and disciplinary activities for the year, sorry about that, I'm trying to move it, year April the 1st, 2020 to 31st of March 2021. Who's going to take this? Would it be Alison and Andrew again?
It would be, if I can, I'll kick off on this then, Chair. It was going to be presented by Gillian Goss, HR Manager for Employee Relations, who is responsible for dealing with grievance and disciplinary matters. But today's date coincided with a course that the service had already paid for her to attend, so she's at that at the moment. But yeah, yes, again, just for information only, really, just to advise that we've got grievance and disciplinary procedures which both abide by the Employment Rights Act 96 and the recommended ACAS Code of Practice. And just wanted to draw the committee's eye to the fact that the grievances at page 136, the number of grievances that were received in 2021 were the same as 1920. And, you know, if I refer back to Councillor Tudor Davis's comments earlier, 6 grievances again in an organisation of this size, it would suggest there's a fairly stable and happy workforce. We do encourage grievances where people wish to raise them, and they're a reminder of certainly our grievance and discipline codes of practice at induction courses as well. And in discipline, then there were 26 reported alleged breaches of discipline. I say alleged because some of the cases were still outstanding as at the 31st of March. But there were 26 reported alleged breaches of discipline compared to 24 in the previous year. Some of the issues, there's a variety of reasons why we conduct or undertake disciplinary investigation. Some are not following procedures, etc. Externally, sometimes they are individuals who may post something on social media, if you like, which isn't in line with our service values. So some of the older types of transgressions, if you like, and some living in the modern world, and you know the risks and the issues that social media can bring. So yeah, we've been dealing with those situations on a fair and consistent basis. It's worth pointing out that from the very outset, employees are given the opportunity to have their union representative there. Invariably, whether it's a grievance or a discipline, it's primarily the first time an individual employee will have gone through such a process. So it's very important that the representative bodies support them, which they do. So yes, they are the sort of numbers, as I mentioned, consistent with the previous year. And we take every opportunity we can to remind people of the service's values and levels of behaviour that is expected of employees working within a professional organisation such as the fire service.
Does any member want to raise any queries or make any comments? Councillor Bradwick?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just want to query. I haven't got the report. I didn't get the report. So it might be in the report and I wouldn't have seen it. How many people have won their appeals against things like this? Out of curiosity.
I think, Councillor Bradwick, there were under 2.2.2 for other members. There were 2 appeals to the outcome of disciplinary hearings undertaken between 1st of April and 31st of March. And in both of these instances, the initial sanctions were upheld by an appeals panel.
Oh, good. Right, thank you. So, I haven't got the report. It didn't arrive. That one didn't arrive to me. Okay. Thank you ever so much.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to raise anything? Any other member? No? Right, the recommendation is that the members note the contents of the report. Is that to be... Yeah. Second?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, thank you very much for that, and thank you for that report. You and Alison have certainly earned your money this morning.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Right, move on to item number 12, report on mental health project and activities. Who's going to be taking this? Is it Dave Cruz? Is he here?
Yeah, that's myself, Chair. Yeah, thanks.
All right.
I will attempt to share my screen. So hopefully members can see.
Have you got it in reading view before you shared it? Slight technical issue again, members. We'll be with you in a second. Reading view first. Sorry.
There we are, that's better. Cheers, thanks. Thank you, apologies for that. So the aim really is just to summarise some of the report that I provided. Members will be aware that the mental health project started November 2019. It's fair to say we've made some progress with our mental health approach within the service and probably wider community aspects as well. So the idea is I'll summarise through the PowerPoint, but more than happy to take any questions through or at the end. So members will be aware that our programme reflects our 3 Ps. So that is prevention, protection and promotion. So really focusing on the prevention element looks at how we recognise types of incidents that may affect our mental health. It looks at establishing workplace and peer champions, so those people that would be qualified in the workplace to assist those colleagues that may be struggling with their mental health. Protection then looks at how we access support. So that could be externally, that could be via self-referrals into our occupational health unit. And then promotion then really focuses on international days really of action. So similar days to your World Mental Health Day, that we can really capitalise on the external promotion really to highlight to our staff the importance really of seeking help and talking about their mental health. One of the first initiatives really the project brought in over a year ago now was the use of a wellbeing tag. So the wellbeing tag allows us to provide an opportunity for incident commanders and control to recognise the types of incidents that may affect our crew mental health. It is quite a subjective view, but I think those incidents do stick out. The historic model was support would have been offered only after fatalities. So we've recognised that mental health can be affected and our well-being affected on a wide range of incidents. So when I ran the last report, we had 118 tagged incidents, just over a year's period, and just shy of 2,000 people individually contacted post-incident. So this is a well-established process now that HR run in conjunction with our joint fire control as well. The added benefits of knowing who's on the incident ground is that we're able to provide detailed reports once a month to our occupational health team. So that provides us an opportunity in everyone's routine medicals to discuss the types of incidents they may have been exposed to. And along that line, really, we carried out a trauma screening pilot in Cardiff Central, Monmouth and Merthyr stations. This was really testing a new way of positive outreach post-incident. So those 3 stations received slightly different input post-incident, where we went in with a clinical trauma screening questionnaire. that allowed those individuals that were in attendance at those types of incidents to reflect on that incident by answering 12 questions. So 10 were trauma-related questions, and then 2 at the back of that questionnaire was 2 depression-related questions. And it's really gauging how mental health and how our well-being could be affected post-incident. The top on the right-hand side, you'll see the 4 or more report, as we're calling it. So this is sort of what we would class as repeated exposure. So those individuals in our workforce that may have been in attendance at 4 or more of these particularly nasty incidents. What we do at this opportunity really is reach out to their local commanders. And we can just highlight to them that their individuals within the station have attended 4 or more. So we are attending. And this goes for control and tactical managers as well. Play on your mind. So we've now got a feedback link via the Cardiff Vale University Health Board that we're able to ask how that patient is doing and then disclose that to the relevant crews. And just so members are aware really that we had 6 incidents within 1 week, which highlights really the frequency of the use of the tag and the types of incidents that we are going to as a fire and rescue service. And more recently, sadly, we've had cross-border incidents with our colleagues in Mid and West. So we carry out a coordinated approach, especially with those going cross-border and particularly with joint fire control to ensure there is a coordinated approach to support control whilst dealing with fairly traumatic incidents. Just to highlight really on a World Mental Health Awareness Week that was on the 10th of May of this year, thanks to the team within media and comms and volunteers, majority of those with lived experience of mental health difficulties came forward, and we all carried out some social media posts and videos that were collated by the media and comms team. You can see there that the reach was over 50,000, so that was people pretty much engaging with our posts externally, which was seen as a real positive, really. We carried out 2 service updates, one day 1 and a second then on day 3, really highlighting there is a wealth of support out there, both internally and externally, but really highlighting our front line, which is a tech service that is 24/7, that is geared up for trauma-related incidents. So really highlighting to staff there is tailored support out there. And on day 1, we held a mental health working group. So these are 16 individuals across all directorates of the service with lived experience to help me and those working within the project to further shape our approach to mental health. Training and development has seen a huge uplift really in probably where we have been historically with our mental health delivery. We carried out a pilot for Gwent Health Boards and Welsh Government, and that was called Connect 5 training. And this was really helping individuals, those that you can see on screen there that were part of the training package for that day that worked within HR, really giving them the opportunity to develop their skills and having that could be quite difficult conversations around mental health and how we can best support individuals that may be struggling with their mental health. Further training has been scheduled for heads of service and the wider HR team as well, just to see how best this fits in within our delivery plan really and our pathways within the service. It appeared in a Welsh Government report from the Gwent Health Boards as well as best practice. This was one of the first face-to-face deliveries the UK has seen really, within the Connect 5 world of a public health model being delivered to emergency services. Recruits training is now embedded within the 6-week and 12-week courses. So that is a 2-hour delivery that every recruit will now receive around how to best utilise the wellbeing tag, how to seek support, and how really to feel post-incident, bearing in mind that a lot of these individuals would never have perhaps thought about the incidents they may be exposed to within their career. On call, staff members will receive a slightly different input, but still a valuable input via their pre-learning pack that they will receive 3 weeks prior to their initial course. Blue Light Champions, which really goes back into probably some conversations Kev Yates was having around how we can best develop workplace champions to really promote well-being and mental health. So the service has agreed to train 55 champions initially within this year. So that would be 47 station-based. So that would be all of our stations having one qualified person per station, and then 8 non-station based. That would include headquarters, Cardiff Gate and control. So really ensuring that we've got a coverage across the organisation really. That would be a one-day course. The approach hopefully this week will be made to commanders and managers to nominate sort of the right person for that role. So that commanders and managers will get a brief job description, really highlighting the type of person we would like to promote into the champion role. A key success of the project, sadly, was developing a family liaison officer training package. So this is sadly when we experience a death in service that is maybe incident related, or those that aren't incident related, a serious injury or an illness or death off duty, so therefore outside of the fire and rescue service. Sadly, over the last few weeks, we have deployed 2 of the 10 that received training to support a group of families that were sadly struggling with a bereavement. Really, the content of this training come into its own in how to have that immediate and very difficult conversation following a death, gathering information, religion and organ donation, and then funeral planning was obviously a key part of the family liaison training. This was delivered in partnership with To Wish Upon a Star, so a local South Wales charity that many of you will be aware of, and Rhiannon Mannings, who runs that charity, does an amazing job, and she was absolutely fundamental in helping us support family members over the last few weeks as well. There will be wider strategic training and organisation training around bereavement and how we can best our colleagues that may be struggling with bereavement and family members, including within that approach as well. So, as I said, that was obviously, sadly utilising the training, but highlights the importance of having groups of officers and those people within the organisation trained to have a very meaningful but difficult role, really, with best supporting family members. Over the last few weeks, the new intranet has been launched. So what members will see is a top bar that you can see mental health, and really it takes you to lots of different options. So what it does show is within the home page, mental health is the top bar. So it's your first click through really. So as we're calling it, one-click support. So you therefore don't have to go looking around the internet or putting into the search bar that you may have to do externally. You can literally load the internet, first bar on the home page, you can see the mental health button. Where it takes you then is into lots of different categories. So I need help now, I need support, so that's sort of looking after your mental health. I'm looking for help for someone else. That could be a line manager, that could be a champion, or that could just be someone in the workplace that's recognised that someone isn't doing particularly well with their mental health. Resources, and then a contact us section that will feature a self-referral. And then just moving on really, before I close on to some of the future focus, is Mind developed a research just mid-COVID really, and some of the key findings that were published that 69% of emergency responders said that their mental health had gotten worse since the start of the pandemic, which I think we can all probably relate to. But sadly, 32% of personnel didn't access support because they didn't think their issue was bad enough or serious enough. So again, that's something that not only within the fire and rescue service, but I think wider UK emergency services, that we've got a duty to sort of break that stigma and to highlight to staff that it is absolutely fine to seek support. 35% of those that did respond to the survey said that their organisation had prioritised mental health and well-being during the pandemic. And I think there was an absolute crying need really and a demand for tailored preventative support and advice that enables people to seek support. So the feedback really from the UK Mind survey is that pretty much you can get lost in websites, so you weren't actually being directed to tailored support for emergency services. So therefore, if we have got staff members wanting to talk about the traumatic incidents they may have attended, actually, if you were to click through to a charity link or something similar, those individuals answering the phones or text services weren't necessarily qualified to do that. And then finally, really looking at the future focus of the mental health project. We are in a really good position that we will be establishing a joint fire control focus group, really looking at how we can best develop and further develop our mental health approach within fire control, implement the investors in people, so the IIP wellbeing recommendations that I believe Station Manager Kev Yates presented on slightly earlier in today's session. A school poster initiative from Howelvar Primary in Cardiff. Really pleased to say that we've engaged with a local primary school that will be designing posters for all of our stations. So those children from Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2 will be designing posters really highlighting how firefighters and everyone working within the fire and rescue service can maintain good and positive mental health. I really feel strongly about this initiative, that I think this is going to hit home to a lot of people, especially when you've got children drawing photos of how we can best stay positive within our mental health. Champion trainers I've mentioned, and further developing our one-click support. So this will be video testimonies and self-referrals as well via the intranet that you saw earlier on. Further develop our post-incident outreach, so I guess what happens next. So we are notified of the incidents, but what happens next, really develop that. And we have got a wellbeing delivery group that has been refocused more recently. So that is a key focus for us, is to implement the investors in people recommendations. You can see there from the image on the right-hand side. So this coming Wednesday, we'll have the Welsh International David James joining us on a virtual staff shout forum, that he will be talking about his struggles. And I think, again, resonating with a lot of people, that you see a athletic, macho individual that maybe historically has never spoken about their mental health struggles, whereas now we're bringing that to our staff workforce. So hopefully that will inspire a number more people to maybe talk about their mental health and indeed seek help. So that's the end of the summary. I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you very much for that. It's good to see what's being delivered to our staff in this very important area, because I've spoke about it before in the past. People were uncomfortable about coming forward to speak about their mental health issues and what was troubling them. And it's good to see that they know where to go to now. And that's not just in the fire service, that's across the board as well. But I think it's also a thing to say, within this pandemic, it has brought mental health issues to the forefront. So hopefully we can continue in this vein. Does anybody want to ask any questions? Steve? Steve Bradwick?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to say, excellent report. I fully back you 100% in this. This is the way forward. And yes, I'm overwhelmed by it. Really, really good. Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cheers. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Thank you very much. I can move on to the next item, which is the Forward Work Programme for 21-20.
Sorry, Chair. Can we move and second the recommendations on that report?
I got carried away.
I'm moving in, Pam. Go on.
Oh, perhaps my lunch is calling me. I don't know. So we've got a mover. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Holmes? Yeah, you raised your hand? Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much. Now I'll move on to item number 13. As you see, there's several items being deferred, but I think we're getting back on track. I believe that is right. Is that right, Alison?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So a couple of agenda items for November. So we're awaiting the NJC Brigade Manager's salary survey outcomes. We haven't had that yet, but hopefully we'll get that in time for November. The usual pension circulars updates, our response to COVID, so a report on how we've coped with the last sort of 18 months or so. A review of training and development activities, that's something that Brian will now bring. And then into February for the last meeting, there's quite a lot on the February agenda, so we may need to look at some of that and bring it forward to November if we can. Just conscious that will take a few hours to get through. So yeah, I think we've covered everything.
Yes, it does look a heavy agenda for February, doesn't it? Councillor Shaw?
Thank you, Chair. Before we move on to the last item, item 14, could I ask, there's been some very useful slides and presentations provided today. Could I ask that they're provided to members of the committee, please?
Yeah, sure, we'll send those on, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps it should go out to all members, not just the HR members, because it is useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with yes, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Right then, item 14, any urgent matters? Well, I haven't got any urgent matters. So I'd like to thank you all for your attendance and participation, because I think it's been a good meeting, and I thank the officers for their reports. So hope you will all have a good summer, and the sun will come back so we can enjoy it. As I look out the window, it's all disappeared.